Stick around, because what we are uncovering today will absolutely blow your mind. I truly appreciate you tuning in. The sheer chaos in this footage is mind-boggling, with things crashing down everywhere. Whoever was there fought tooth and nail. She totally vanished from public view lately. Relatives arrived at the property and immediately felt a chill, knowing things were totally off. Annie initially suspected some sort of health crisis. Given that the place was completely undisturbed and tidy, Nancy Guthrie's back door was left completely ajar. What stopped her from running out that way? Annie walked into a pristine residence that looked absolutely flawlessly maintained. Detectives believe a perfectly tidy room points straight toward a calculated plot, rather than someone just walking away. Relatives fiercely shut down any theories about her getting lost or confused. Her crippling spinal issues meant she could barely walk more than a few feet. Finding that exit unlatched turned this into a massive mystery. Crimson stains on the porch paired with a gaping rear entrance. Could this nightmare have been orchestrated? Authorities verified some deeply disturbing evidence scattered across the property. Friends called the residence flawlessly clean. However, subtle, undeniable clues proved a sinister event actually happened. Security cameras caught a shadowy figure creeping up the steps, spotting the lens, and desperately trying to blind the device. Rumors indicate the rear entrance was wedged apart, making people wonder if the intruder planned to escape through that route. Even with those breadcrumbs, the culprit evaded police for weeks, terrifying local residents who desperately sought the undeniable truth. An agitated pup acting crazy at midnight. Did a simple pet accidentally ruin a dark scheme? Folks next door noticed bizarre stuff happening during those dark hours. Their normally peaceful hound frantically roused them, a freak and totally rare occurrence. That bizarre animal reaction immediately grabbed the detective's focus while scrubbing through the surveillance tapes. Locals are still absolutely terrified, desperately trying to wrap their heads around the unfolding horror. Whispers claim multiple street lenses mysteriously died right then, sparking fierce debate over whether a glitch or a barking pet signaled something much, much darker. Did that canine force the attacker to pivot immediately? Authorities are currently debating if that unlatched rear threshold was meant as the primary getaway path. Hushed sources claim the culprit unlocked it hours in advance, perhaps right by the planters, hinting at a bungled operation. The spotlight also pivoted to that crazy canine behavior in the dark. Initially, everyone brushed it off as just another meaningless nighttime noise. However, subsequent tape analysis alongside the police proved the exact minute mattered. Internet sleuths certainly had theories, yet insiders insist the pup's actions meant nothing until cops officially requested the neighbor's video, ignoring the chatter. Locals remain dedicated to comforting relatives and pushing the case onward. 1:40 in the morning, an abrupt disruption, a lens failing mysteriously, and a hound staring intently at one spot. Could these puzzle pieces connect? Based on gathered intel, Jolene, the pet, roused her master right near 1:40 in the morning. A truly bizarre hour for any ruckus. Rather than howling, the animal frantically slobbered on his cheek, desperately demanding to go out into the yard. Stepping onto the grass, Jolene locked her eyes dead onto Nancy's property. Back then it felt trivial, yet looking back changes everything. Particularly because right around 1:47 in the morning, the porch lens supposedly died, shrinking the exact window. Detectives are now tearing apart. An everyday midnight bathroom break might actually be the smoking gun that reveals exactly when the chaos started. A weird habit that happened once, disappeared, and then suddenly sparked up again on that fateful evening. Reportedly, the hound acting up at 1:40 in the morning was incredibly rare, last seen back on January the 11th. It never happened again after that, making this specific instance a glaring red flag for the investigative squad. Locals insist such antics were completely out of character for an aging, obedient pet. This strange nugget of info practically confirms a very sketchy situation was unfolding right next door during those quiet hours. Town residents reacted with fierce, tear-jerking solidarity. Crowds rallied together, piling bouquets and tying colorful bows around Nancy Guthrie's lawn in mourning. Hearing the relatives speak broke everyone's heart, uniting the neighborhood in a desperate prayer for absolute truth and closure. Even though the block has calmed down considerably, random folks still respectfully wander up to the property. Neighbors call it a spot for silent reflection, trying to digest the tragedy, while cops quietly grind away at the complex case. A shockingly quiet police presence, a familiar face, and a loyal pet who probably knew far more than humans realized Sources claim uniform sightings near the Guthrie residence are basically non-existent. Save for a few extra guards and rogue journalists, don't let the quiet streets fool you. This tranquil neighborhood hides a chilling, sprawling mystery right beneath the surface. The guy next door and his loyal hound knew Nancy well from their daily strolls back in the day. Though they crossed paths less often lately, folks suspect the pup would undoubtedly know her instantly by her unique smell. Rumors swirled that her beloved pet had died just days prior to this tragedy, sparking massive public chatter as headlines rapidly exploded. Even with internet trolls hating on them, insiders claim stepping into the spotlight was essential to maintain public focus, shine a massive spotlight on the mystery, and hopefully shake loose fresh clues to push this stalling case forward. Someone's sinister scheme likely got botched, leaving detectives scrambling to unravel the twisted truth of that dark evening. Insiders claim detectives are aggressively zeroing in on a wild theory. An innocent neighborhood pup might have completely derailed the kidnapper's strategy. This wild tidbit keeps everyone captivated as detectives plunge deeper into a highly critical new chapter. Police are intensely scrutinizing a pair of supposed extortion letters, desperately trying to figure out if they are actually legitimate. Meanwhile, responders found the residence absolutely spotless upon arrival, completely clashing with clues, hinting Nancy Guthrie was snatched abruptly from her bed. All these weird clues are finally building a solid chronology, which authorities pray will unlock the truth and generate actual momentum. Strolling short distances was basically impossible. Still, she disappeared from a pristine house. How on earth is that possible? Relatives immediately shut down the ridiculous theory that she simply strolled away on her own accord from day one. Battling agonizing spinal agony meant Nancy Guthrie rarely moved far, even on decent days, instantly sparking terror before the truly terrifying clues emerged. Wide open entryways, fresh crimson stains staining the porch, and a violently ripped-off security lens painted a grim picture, yet the interior remained weirdly pristine. Insiders called the flawless rooms completely undisturbed, adding an entirely new layer of sheer confusion. The bizarrely neat setting totally contradicted a violent kidnapping, tricking initial responders into initially guessing it was just a severe health crisis. Once fresh facts emerged, however, the undeniable reality of foul play hit hard. This wasn't standard whatsoever. Zero evidence of fighting, yet she was virtually deaf and immobile, begging the ultimate question, what actually went down indoors? Detectives instantly spotted a glaring red flag. Since health crises typically result in knocked-over furniture or obvious chaos everywhere, yet the house stayed flawlessly clean, lacking obvious battle scars. 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie possessed major bodily barriers. Records indicate she absolutely needed audio devices and struggled tremendously just walking, making everyone wonder if she even realized a horrific threat was unfolding during the pitch-black dawn hours. Specialists argue an abrupt assault on someone that frail should undoubtedly scatter debris or leave obvious physical clues behind. The creepy tidiness indoors merely amplifies the suspense, hinting the sinister attack was executed with terrifying speed and utter silence. Not a single cushion was disturbed. Lugging a disabled victim away totally invisibly sparks incredibly alarming doubts. Analysts insist that simply dragging or escorting an impaired person would normally wreck a room, regardless of active fighting. Tiny clues, perhaps a bumped lamp, or a smashed vase, normally happen here. Considering her frail state, records imply she absolutely could not flee or react fast enough to hide. This proves she couldn't fight back, yet ironically makes the freakishly tidy interior infinitely more suspicious to seasoned crime sleuths. Meanwhile, friends admit, maintaining a flawlessly spotless residence was completely standard behavior for her daily routine. Regardless, the notion that intruders breached the property, grabbed her, and vanished, leaving zero footprint totally baffles the detectives assigned here. A pristine living room simply defies basic common sense regarding violent abductions. So where is the chaos? Professionals highlight that chaotic abductions essentially always guarantee some noticeable environmental wreckage left behind. Not necessarily an epic brawl, but definite scuffling, or maybe a dragged rug, or broken glass, particularly after a shocking ambush. Simultaneously, her crippled physical state remains an absolutely massive factor to consider. Medical files confirm her severe stiffness meant fighting back normally was absolutely impossible, which justifies the missing brawl marks. but definitely doesn't excuse the eerily pristine surroundings everywhere. Detectives are obsessing over this bizarre contradiction since peaceful abductions, yanking a victim outdoors, usually deposits minor clues. Just like those crimson porch drops and that wildly unlatched rear exit, these clues now hold massive importance for deciphering this nightmare. We're talking tiny oddities, things strictly relatives would instantly spot. Might these hidden quirks solve the entire mystery? Cops swear massive destruction rarely cracks the hardest cases open. Instead, microscopic shifts carry immense value. A weirdly angled picture frame, an eerie vibe, or tiny things screaming purely to loved ones who practically live there. Currently, insiders confirm zero evidence suggests a standard burglary or random property theft actually occurred. Make no mistake, whoever took Nancy Guthrie knew exactly what they were doing and who they were after. Yet, those initial dispatches from the scene just do not add up. A few accounts noted slight chaos, whereas alternative sources painted a picture of absolute perfection inside the house. This glaring contradiction only deepens the puzzle, forcing detectives to scramble and figure out the actual reality of the crime scene. An 84-year-old kidnapped from her own house. But not a single pin drops. How does a ghost story like that actually happen? Insiders claim the police sensed severe trouble immediately, escalating the case to heavy-hitter detectives right out of the gate. Calling the residents flawless probably just signifies that the tables and chairs looked completely normal upon a preliminary sweep. Specialists highlight a major flaw though. Relocating a person who struggles to walk demands serious physical labor, likely taking multiple handlers. Normally, hauling dead weight creates at least a tiny mess, particularly if the intruders do not know the floor plan. Hence, specific clues scream for attention, such as the gaping rear entrance totally shattering the illusion of an undisturbed environment. Lacking obvious destruction, authorities remain confident that microscopic breadcrumbs will eventually expose the dark truth hidden within those walls. A wide-open rear exit, paired with a pristine living room. Does that actually make any logical sense? Forensics professionals severely doubt that an 84-year-old victim could vanish into thin air without knocking a single item over. Navigating a strange house with a physically restricted captive practically guarantees breaking or bumping into something along the way. Conversely, alternative voices claim a meticulously orchestrated extraction is totally doable if the perpetrators mapped out the property beforehand. Such a theory implies you do not need a trashed room to prove a sinister crime went down. Nevertheless, this argument exposes a massive red flag. The tidy interior heavily clashes with the glaring anomaly of the unlocked exit. Detectives must currently juggle both theories in their desperate hunt to reconstruct the exact timeline of that fateful evening. A pair of strong guys snatching an aging lady without leaving a trace. Could pulling this off be simpler than anyone thinks? Analysts studying the blueprints note that navigating a captive through that specific property might not cause a giant racket anyway, featuring wide hallways and zero clutter. A highly calculated kidnapping could theoretically proceed smoothly without bumping a single vase. Crime scene photos reveal a basic interior design, a modest nightstand, tons of empty walking room, and a few scattered carpets. Although those floor mats might harbor crucial DNA, the expansive architecture ultimately facilitated a stealthy escape route, hiding obvious damage. Noting the unsealed rear threshold, police heavily suspect this entire operation was masterminded with chilling precision. Under those specific circumstances, the perfectly preserved living quarters suddenly feel far less shocking than originally assumed. A 40-minute time frame and an entryway wedged ajar using random junk 20-way dash-in. Does this signify a massive hole in their scheme? Authorities currently scrutinize the proposed sequence of events, heavily implying the intruders lingered inside the property for an extended period. Consequently, fresh doubts have surfaced regarding the absolute validity of that established chronological account. Rumors even suggest the culprits jammed the patio entrance wide, using whatever they grabbed, like decorative planters from the yard. Assuming this fact holds water, specialists argue it screams frantic on-the-fly thinking rather than cold, calculated strategy. This nuance is critical, as seasoned criminals pack their own gear, so utilizing random household items strongly hints the operation derailed mid-execution, throwing yet another curveball of confusion that detectives must desperately try to untangle today. An entryway wedged apart, a scheme executing smoothly, until an unexpected variable blew it all up. Specialists note that jamming a threshold, even leveraging garden pots, drastically simplifies the nightmare of dragging a body out, particularly when every second counts for maintaining dominance, ensuring a seamless escape route, which leads to the most fascinating twist. Certain detectives argue this completely negates the amateur theory, proving they fully intended to vanish through the rear yard. Finding both the threshold and the fence unlatched paints a glaring picture of a predetermined getaway path. Conversely, clues scattered across the front yard birthed a crucial hypothesis. An unforeseen disaster wrecked the primary strategy, mandating a panicked frontline escape, prepping to vanish through the backyard, only to pull a chaotic 180 toward the street. What triggered that pivot? Law enforcement suspects the initial blueprint was terribly basic: breach the perimeter, grab the target, and vanish instantly. Yet reality clearly threw them a curveball, triggering a frantic contingency option that funneled them out the main entryway. Concurrently, her desperate relatives broadcasted an emotional plea to the public, stating, "Stepping up with crucial tips is never past the deadline." This declaration cements their relentless pursuit to uncover the absolute truth. Forensics gurus also tackled the pristine house debate, noting that while untouched rooms lock in evidence, early dispatch logs prove a massive crowd compromised the footprint, thoroughly contaminating any vital trace materials left scattered across the carpets and adjacent hallways. A totally spotless room. That pristine surface might actually conceal the ultimate smoking gun. Forensic specialists emphasize that securing the area immediately is crucial for capturing delicate shoe tracks. Otherwise, frantic relatives and emergency crews trampling through the house will quickly obliterate fragile markers. Yet, a meticulously kept house hands detectives a massive advantage. An intruder dragging in outside mud creates glaringly obvious pathways right across the floor. Meanwhile, seasoned analysts actively hunt for the invisible gaps, tracking down microscopic indentations, escaping normal sight. This exact challenge requires deploying cutting-edge technology. High-tech electrostatic lifting devices work magic on bare surfaces, pulling up unseen patterns that a sweeping gaze would entirely miss in an untouched room. Consider vital physical clues like scattered planters and shoe marks. Were they isolated immediately? Professionals know that once things look suspicious, every single object inside transforms completely. Protocol demands absolutely locking down the area, guarding all doorways, and bagging anything holding potential DNA. Specialized lifting technology is practically standard issue today. Therefore, detectives should absolutely know exactly how to shield delicate track marks from accidental contamination. Consequently, locking down the perimeter right away dictates how much physical data is salvaged. Scrutiny heavily falls on things like those infamous ceramic planters. If the suspect touched them, analysts insist they absolutely needed immediate bagging and swabbing. Why? Because tiny, insignificant objects often crack open the mystery. So, did authorities botch the collection, or are samples awaiting tests? Might these minuscule fragments blow everything open? Seasoned investigators emphasize that standard operating guidelines demand bagging objects like planters if they seem connected. Ignoring them during the initial sweep represents a massive failure. Although detectives might have grabbed them eventually, crime lab technicians note that porous surfaces frequently yield viable genetic material or distinct prints. While never guaranteed, proper extraction techniques routinely turn those mundane items into massive breakthroughs. The public is desperately questioning other handling methods. Insiders suggest task force members are intensely scrutinizing materials. They focus on highly publicized handwritten threats, desperate to piece together the timeline and unmask the culprits. Those extortion letters face brutal scrutiny. Are we looking at genuine demands or an elaborate smokescreen? Profilers note that breaking down threats requires intense psychological dissection. Analysts rip apart every single syntax choice. They examine every pen stroke to figure out the author's true identity and verify its realness. This deep dive requires cross-referencing text against private case facts, forcing agents and relatives into tight collaboration. Ultimately, they want to build a rock-solid suspect profile by isolating weird behavioral quirks. Rumors are currently swirling regarding those several different extortion attempts. Sources say only a handful actually hold water. If accurate, this heavily shifts the dynamic, turning verified letters into goldmines of psychological insight regarding the perpetrator. A tangled web of evidence converges. Will these combined fragments expose the dark reality of Nancy Guthrie's vanishing? Law enforcement is stepping back to view the grand puzzle, merging crime lab data, movement, chronologies, and federal linguistic profiles. Whispers from inside confirm they take a few letters incredibly seriously, injecting fresh momentum into the massive manhunt. Detectives absolutely insist that even the most seemingly irrelevant tip might break things wide open. If you hold even a shred of knowledge regarding Nancy Guthrie going missing, picking up that phone right now could ultimately solve this horrific tragedy. Our team at NCC News remains dedicated to hunting down every confirmed breakthrough. We deeply appreciate your continued viewership on this network. I am your host, Jim Parker. Signing off for NCC News? Keep your eyes completely open. We must relentlessly demand the absolute truth. This story leaves behind more than mystery. It leaves a lesson about vigilance, compassion, and the value of small details. Life can look calm on the surface while something deeply wrong is unfolding underneath. A quiet home, a familiar street, even an ordinary night can hide warning signs that only careful eyes and caring hearts will notice. One powerful lesson is that details matter. A door left open, a strange sound in the night, unusual behavior from a pet, or one object slightly out of place may seem unimportant at first. But in moments of crisis, small observations can become the thread that leads to truth. Paying attention is not paranoia. It is responsibility. This case also reminds us to protect the vulnerable, elderly people, especially those with health or mobility challenges, deserve extra care. Stronger support systems, and communities that notice when something feels wrong. Safety is not only personal, it is collective. Most of all, this story teaches us the importance of empathy. Behind every investigation is a family carrying fear, grief, and unanswered questions. We should never become numb to that pain. Truth matters. Justice matters. And sometimes the simplest act, speaking up, noticing something, or refusing to ignore a red flag, can make all the difference.